Good morning. I'd like to call this session of Skagit County Commissioners to order. It is May 31st, 2023. Please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are here for a session this morning with Brian Adams and an issue with one of the trails we have with a creek and water through the trail, and we have a group of students here going to do a presentation. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Brian Adams, Director of Skagit County Parks and Recreation, here with Joseph Shea from our staff, as well as the Seattle Youth students. We've got Emily Doreen, Natural Resources, Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group. So good group here today. And first off, I just wanted to congratulate these fine and finely dressed Seattle Youth students. They came into our office before the meeting, and I asked if they were more nervous about graduating on June 12th, you know, about what's coming up next. And they said, no, they're just excited about it. And when I pressed further, I learned that they all already have jobs. So
wow.
I guess that's the reason they're not too nervous about the future. So congratulations, Seattle U, as well, for putting these folks to work already. So that's great news. We had an opportunity to partner with Seattle University. They have a great program. Macklin, who worked for us at one time, may be able to tell us a little bit about this as an intern and then as an employee a little bit, so a part-time employee. So good to have folks coming up through the ranks and doing good things out there. So we partnered with Seattle U. Yes, we had a problem and we needed a solution. And what better way to find a solution than work with the Seattle University students? So a great partnership. They met with us weekly, and we are able to give them feedback and keep moving through the process and come up with a solution and a design that we think will work out there. And not only will it work for recreationalists, it's going to work for salmon as well. So we hope those two pots of money can be combined and we can find some grants out there to help us get through the process. We've had some of those discussions already, and there is certainly funding out there for those type of projects, especially now. So working with the students, it's a highly problematic area. Wiseman Creek is known to carry a lot of gravel and a lot of load off the mountains, especially with the early events each year. And that creek moves, and for whatever reason, it likes to move right through our trail and right down our trail oftentimes. So years ago, we put a bridge in there, and you could stand underneath it, and it was like,
It's a
wow,
beautiful bridge.
We've solved the problem. And the first year it came down there, filled up that new beautiful channel we built for it, and moved where it wanted to. So that bridge will go to work. It'll remain there, but there is a design that they can utilize to augment what we have in place. And as people move down the trail, we hope that they can keep their feet out of the water. Feet being in the water certainly isn't good for salmon reds and spawning and whatever else goes out there. So there's been a route around, but we don't ideally want to put people out on the Lyman Highway, Lyman-Hamilton Highway, or other places. People want to stay on that trail, and we've got a commitment for the rail banking that we did years ago. So I just wanted to introduce Joseph too before I go to Macklin. And Joseph, do you have some thoughts or some words?
Yeah, it's just been real nice working with the students here. I was very unsure myself of the process, and we have many uses. Horse riders and bike riders. We also have a lot of other interests, including the environment, but also, like Brian said, keeping our corridor usable. Also, we have a lot of interest in our maintenance team, and the team here really helped us navigate those and kind of prioritize, and it was very nice working with them. So, just wanted to say that.
Very good. And I just want to get Macklin up here to talk a little bit about their program and what they do. And Macklin, come on up, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, the pictures and the power
Thank you, Brian, for the introduction. Good morning, County Commissioners. It's good to see you as always. For those who don't know me, my name is Macklin Hamilton, and I'm the Corporate Relationship Specialist at Seattle University. For the past year and a half, I've been working with the students at Seattle University, specifically within the College of Science and Engineering. The population of students that I engage with are soon to be graduating seniors and graduate level students who work in the field of science and engineering. Today, you'll hear from a group of civil and environmental engineering students who have partnered with the Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group as well as Skagit County Parks and Recreation to mitigate the problems that Wiseman Creek and the Cascade Trail have been facing since the early 2000s. And before you hear from these students, I'd just like to give you a little bit of context about the work that we do in the Project Center. So I'd like for you to picture this. You're graduating into a highly competitive job market while mass layoffs are happening across the nation. You've worked hard for the last 4 years to study within your desired career, and how do you plan to stand out within today's competitive job market? The Project Center at Seattle University strives to provide real-world industry experience that gives our students a distinct advantage when applying for these jobs. Since 1987, the Project Center has been providing industry-sponsored capstone projects for students at Seattle University. Our project durations last a full academic year, and student teams are comprised of 4 to 6 students, a faculty advisor, and a sponsor from a liaison from the sponsoring organization. And for the upcoming academic year, we're recruiting 50 capstone projects to serve students in the field of mechanical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, computer science, data science, environmental science, and civil environmental engineering, which you'll hear from today. Some of our longtime strategic partners include Amazon, Boeing, Costco Wholesale, F5 Networks, Kenworth Trucks, PACCAR, T-Mobile, and then Puget Sound Energy, Seattle City Light, and King County. So, why Skagit County? You'll notice that I ended my list of strategic partners with government agencies, and I believe that exposure to the benefits of working within a community and serving the local government is extremely important for students who are working within the field of STEM. Second, I'm very familiar with the hardworking and dedicated folks who work and live here in Skagit County, and I knew that our students engaging with these folks would be beneficial to them during their educational journey. And finally, on a more personal note, I looked forward to supporting the county that gave me an opportunity as the first step of my career when I was finishing my undergraduate degree as an intern at Skagit County Parks and Recreation. So I'd like to thank our partners at Skagit County Parks and Recreation and the Fisheries Enhancement Group for their support, providing valuable industry experience for our students, and their investment of time and resources over the past 9 months. And we look forward to future opportunities to collaborate with you all. So now it's time for me to step aside and introduce the brilliant young minds who have worked tirelessly over the last 9 months on the Wiseman Creek project. So first off, during the presentation, we'll hear from Megan Martindale and Ryan McGeary. And then during our question and answer session, you'll speak with Alex Robles and Jamie Kaufman. So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. It's great to see you. And Megan and Ryan, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Macklin. Hi everyone, my name is Megan Martindale, and I'm a member of Team CE 23.4 with the Cascade Trail Rehabilitation from Seattle U. And we're happy to work with Skagit County Parks and Recreation and the Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group, and we'd really like to thank you for taking time out of the past 9 months of your schedules to work with us. I know we've all learned a lot and really appreciate getting to learn more from you guys. And we'd also like to take time to thank the Skagit County Commissioners for having us here today and hearing us out and seeing what we've done over the past 9 months. So let's get into it. So we'll go over a little outline of our project first. We'll go over our background, some proposed alternatives that we've put together. We'll talk about our alternatives analysis, then we'll wrap up with our final design and some conclusions. So to begin with our management structure, we worked with Allison Studley from the Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group, and we also worked with Brian Adams, Joseph Shea, and Emily Doreen from the Skagit County Parks and Recreation. On the Seattle U side of things, we worked with Dr. Kun Jang and Dr. Wes Lauer, who are our faculty advisors, and Dr. Lauer was also our project coordinator. And then on the engineering team, you have myself, Ryan McGeary, who will be speaking next, and Jamie Kaufman and Alex Robles, who will be speaking later. Next, we'll talk a little bit about our site overview. So we're located about 5 miles east of Sedro-Woolley, Washington, where Wiseman Creek crosses the Cascade Trail. And this is a little bit south of Minkler Road and a little bit west of Minkler Lake. So the objectives of our project were to analyze the literature and data provided to us to understand the problems in this region. We also want to determine 4 design solutions, use an evaluation matrix to determine the best solution, and finally deliver 10% design drawings and a final report that summarizes our team's findings. So to do this, we put together this project roadmap that helped guide our process. So we would begin by understanding the problem, Then we moved into some literature review and survey data collection, and a big part of this was reviewing the Wiseman Creek feasibility study that was completed in 2006. And this study really did a large kind of overarching review of the whole Wiseman Creek watershed area, whereas our project really focuses on the Cascade Trail corridor. From there, we moved into a solutions analysis and put together an evaluation matrix to help us decide our preferred alternative, which helped us then put together our 10% design drawings and compile our final report and deliverables. Next, we'll talk about the problem statement. So because of Wiseman Creek and Cascade Trail and the location of those two regions, as Wiseman Creek flows towards the Cascade Trail, it causes a lot of flooding. And this is detrimental to the salmon habitat because as Wiseman Creek is channelized along the Cascade Trail, salmon are rerouted up the trail instead of following the natural hydrologic functions of the region. In addition to the disruptions to the salmon habitat, flooding really makes this trail inaccessible for recreational users, so they either have to be detoured along State Route 20, have to turn back and can't use the trail at all, or they continue through the flooded trail, which continues to disrupt salmon habitat. In addition to this, the sediment deposition along the Cascade Trail causes a lot of extra maintenance for Skagit County Parks and Recreation, and this maintenance also has effects on salmon habitat. Here's an elevation map that shows kind of the topography of the region. So as we're going from the high white and red regions, they're pretty steep. And as we pass State Route 20 and get into these more green yellow regions, you see that we kind of flatten out. And finally, as we hit the Cascade Trail, there's a large alluvial fan in this region, a very flat space, which is what's causing Wiseman Creek to drop so much sediment and have so much dispersed flow, which in turn leads to the flooding along the trail. Here we've done some LiDAR differencing. So to do this analysis step, we took LiDAR from 2017 and 2022 and subtracted those two surfaces to get an average elevation change over the 1,900-foot section of the Cascade Trail that we're interested in. And once we did this step, we found that there was an average of plus or minus 2 feet of erosion and deposition. So this means that in regions where you see red, there's about 2 feet of erosion, and in regions where you see green, there's about 2 feet of deposition. And this was important for us because we use this information to help guide our alternatives analysis process. Next, we'll look at some pictures of the flooded trail. So here you can see the trail is almost completely inaccessible. There's basically a river flowing down it, and this poor footbridge is not usable at all. Here you'll see a trail comparison. So we've done a couple site visits up in the region. This one was on November 11th that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see a channel of Wiseman Creek cutting directly across the Cascade Trail. It looks pretty strong. Looks like the water's moving fairly fast, causing a lot of erosion. However, when we come back on January 3rd of this year, that channel has completely filled up and has moved to a different location. So this comparison really goes to show how much this region is changing just over 2 months, let alone 5, 10, or even 15 years. And finally, that footbridge we saw in the first image, here it is as it was installed in the mid-2000s. It looks beautiful, it looks great, and we're all really happy about it until we get to this same bridge in January of this year, where it's unfortunately completely inaccessible. It's almost covered with sediment, and water is running over and under it. So that's the issue that we're trying to deal with here. So now we'll talk a little bit about our proposed alternatives. So we talked about a no new action plan, rerouting our existing trail, and raising the existing trail, as well as putting in a full-length boardwalk. The no new action plan includes us leaving the trail as is, so every winter season the trail will be detoured along State Route 20, how it is now, and maintenance will still be required every summer. In addition to this, habitat disruption will continue to occur. Our rerouting the trail option includes two sub-options. One of these options is to go to Minkler Road and then run north of the alluvial fan and then reconnect with the existing Cascade Trail. The other option is to follow the existing detour, which takes us down Minkler Road a little bit around State Route 20 and then connecting with the existing trail. And one of our concerns with this was rerouting pedestrians and recreational users along roads. We were concerned about the safety. Our next alternative was to raise the existing trail, and this consists of raising the trail about 4 feet and channelizing Wiseman Creek underneath a couple bridges along the 1,900-foot section. And although this had some promising impacts at first, we were a little concerned about channelizing the creek because it brings down so much sediment. We were worried that any channel that we try to create, like has happened before, will just fill up with sediment, and that will render our solution not as helpful over a long-term period. And we're also a little bit worried about debris coming down and getting lodged either against the trail or against any bridges. So that brings us to our final design alternative, which is a full-length boardwalk. This boardwalk will be raised about 4 feet above the ground as well to account for that elevation change that we talked about in the LiDAR differencing. And we really like this solution because it allows for Wiseman Creek to return to its natural hydrologic flow. And this is good for salmon habitat because now they can use the stream as they originally do, and it protects the salmon redds from recreational users. In addition to this, recreational users will be able to use the trail year round because it'll be elevated above the elevation change and also above any floodwaters. And with that, I'd like to have Ryan McGeary come up and talk about the rest of our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And once again, I'd like to reiterate our gratitude to our liaisons and to the Skagit County Commissioners for having us here today. So in order to determine the best solution, our team drafted an evaluation matrix. This was the result of numerous discussions with our liaisons and faculty coordinators. And so for this, we had 6 different categories, being constructability, recreation, environment, longevity, permeability, and the upfront cost. These scores were given a range of 1 to 5 from low to high, and these results were then weighted based on the expertise of each of our scorers. So for constructability, this refers to the ease of constructing the design alternatives, including land acquisition, acquiring materials, and support from outside companies. For recreation, we looked at consistent recreational usage across the year for pedestrians, cyclists, and equestrian users. For the environmental category, we look at solutions that would facilitate the natural restoration of habitat-forming processes in the wetland. For longevity, we looked at the future maintenance cost and the durability of our design. For permeability, we looked at the ease of obtaining permits from local, state, and or federal agencies. And for the upfront cost, we analyzed the initial financial investment of the entire construction scope of the alternative. So here are our results from our evaluation matrix scoring. So greens are high scores, reds are low scores for each of the categories. And we then weighted each of these categories based on their importance to the project. So constructability scores had 10%. Recreation and environment is a major part of this design process and are kind of key components of the problem that we have here. So these were both given 25% weightings, longevity at 15%, permeability at 10%, and upfront cost at 15% as well. So the highest score went to the full-length boardwalk, so we decided to take that alternative to a 10% design. So again, here is that drawing of the boardwalk. So this would be raised 4 feet above the existing ground elevation to allow for the sediment deposition and erosion to occur beneath the boardwalk, as well as the water levels. This boardwalk would also require handrails as part of ADA standards. That way, since we are 4 feet above the existing elevation. And then these footings would be 4 feet into the ground as well. This is a plan view of the boardwalk. So on both sides of our project site, there are 2 existing larger bridges. So we would widen the boardwalk to meet the width of those existing bridges. The current width of the boardwalk would be 6 feet. This allows for equestrian users to go through this trail corridor in single file. If we have 2 equestrian users going in both directions, we would also have pullouts at 1/3 and 2/3 of the way through the trail to allow for them to yield so that they can pass each other. Additionally, these pullouts may also have a bench if a user wanted to rest there and enjoy the scenery along the trail. And then this is a full-length profile view on the top here showing the existing ground elevations for the trail, and then our boardwalk design would closely match a 4 feet average elevation above the existing trail. Where the trail starts to slope down more, the boardwalk would also follow a 2% grade. And then we also have a profile view showing the spacings for our footings, which we would recommend a 10-foot spacing there, and then again showing the 4 feet above the ground elevation. And then this is a cross-section which shows the cross-section view of our boardwalk. So we would have a cross brace and then 3 by 8 inch composite decking, which through review, this type of material would be able to support the loads of equestrian and riders along the boardwalk. So to go over the overall benefits of the boardwalk alternative, for the environment, this would mitigate human impact on the salmon habitat and allow the alluvial fan to function naturally. For recreational benefits, this would allow for year-round access through this trail corridor, and it prevents users from needing to detour around Highway 20, which is a safety concern. And this would ideally solve a long-standing issue within Skagit County since this has been going on since the early 2000s. Next is our upfront cost analysis. So we looked at 32 observations of other wetland boardwalk projects, and we adjusted these prices to account for inflation. And for our 1,900-foot section of the boardwalk, we reached an average cost of about $1.4 million. We then applied a 30% contingency, which then brings the total to $1.8 million from our cost estimate. And for maintenance cost, before the boardwalk, we just look at the current ongoing maintenance that is happening on the Cascade Trail. So from the numbers we had from our sponsors, it looks like the average is around $9,700 per year. After the boardwalk, there wouldn't be the need to do resurfacing, and the estimated maintenance would be $11,000 per year. There were 30-year present values of $275,000 and $323,000 with the boardwalk. So though the boardwalk is more costly, it does have qualitative benefits, such as creating the year-round trail accessibility, the improved safety for users not needing to detour around along the highways, and ideally restoring the salmon spawning habitat along Wiseman Creek. For further development, we have delivered this package to Skagit County to aid in the acquisition of grants and funding to continue the design, and through discussions, we could also work with Washington Trails Association, potentially Skagit Trail Builders, or Skagit Whatcom Island Trail maintenance organizations to help reduce cost of the boardwalk, and potentially this could be made into an adopted trail, which would further reduce the maintenance cost. And that is all we have. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Janicki, any questions?
I'll have Alex Robles and Jamie Kaufman come up here for the Q&A section.
All right, thank you so much. I'm Alex Robles, this is Jamie Kaufman, and we are here to answer your questions.
I didn't even realize how long ago the study had been done on this Wiseman Creek. So, you know, actually I say creek because I'm married to a logger who I once argued with him that crick isn't a word, it's creek. And then we looked it up in Black's Law Dictionary and they're both, anyway. But Wiseman Creek moves a lot with 10-foot spacing and however deep that 3 foot below ground will, I mean, I can see if it was all in a static position, all you had was a load on top, but how does the design take into account the movement of water around those footings?
So the design was actually made so the creek can flow naturally and doesn't impact the flow of the creek at all, so it returns to its natural state instead of being channelized along the trail like it currently is and having to be regraded every summer.
And what was the length of that? The boardwalk would be, what's the elevated, total elevated?
1,900 feet.
Oh, that's a long way.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm not sure the budget's enough. At first I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, that sounds good. And where were the locations for a comparative boardwalk? You said there were other places you guys looked at.
We looked at a ton of different places, including some places in Oregon, some places on the East Coast, some places even up here in Washington. A lot of our observations came from Caltrans bids, which were building similar boardwalks, and we took their per linear foot cost and extrapolated it to 1,900 feet, and then added contingency on top of that.
Okay. I see boardwalks used extensively up in Alaska. I go and visit like across Potter's Marsh, and I mean, that thing is huge, walking through a marsh, but I even see where they've utilized that in other along rivers. They just get the people off the banks and put in that piece. And I'm really impressed by the work that your whole team has done. It does give me a great sense of pride and hope for our future, having not just the inquisitive, but a way to put that into a structured form like this that can actually produce a project is fabulous. So I just want to say thank you. This is super exciting. I'll defer to my other commissioners. I may have other questions, but
Thank you.
Commissioner Browning.
Yeah, a lot of those products that are, and it's just more our issue than yours, but those, the wood products, those compressed wood, they do get really slick when they're wet. So we're probably gonna have to think about putting some sort of like grainy or like sandy type paint on them or something like that. It'll be interesting to know just to see, because but yeah, getting a horse on there and getting them spooked would not be fun. But it's a beautiful picture. Just how that's going to look will be spectacular. And I do understand how it's going to let that thing channelize finally and stop diverting it with stuff that will. And yes, are we going to have to go in and help it along a little bit by trenching or something to get it kind of redirected? Of course, that'd be more of an Allison question.
So the goal is that that won't be necessary, and that because the way that the stream wants to move is it'll fill up one channel and it'll move to another one. And so what's currently happening is that every year it is being like regraded, and so that's what's causing it to move down the trail every year. By building a boardwalk, it would allow the stream to move around without impacting any of the maintenance activities. And we're hoping that with the 4-foot embedment, it'll allow the stream to be anywhere along the boardwalk and likely at multiple places as it moves naturally. But yeah, there wouldn't be any required maintenance of the channel.
That's perfect.
And we will get Allison up there after the question period just to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about those things.
And my last main point is this would be a good project to bring newer, younger people who are just looking at your program up to see what this, because I know it's like to go through 4 years and find, and you guys obviously are good at it and like it and you knew what you're getting into, but there are a lot of young people that go through 4 years and go, geez, is this what the job is really about? This would be a great opportunity to bring them up and say, look at this. This is really cool. This is what this job means. And so yeah, I'm excited by it and thank you. This is good.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank you for the program and the presentation, a lot of good information there. So you've done one or two, just two site visits then?
I believe we did 3.
3?
Yeah.
I know I was out there a few years ago and there was 6-8 inches of water running down the trail, and it's not very good salmon habitat walking down the trail. When you're designed there and so forth, how many years before it fills up, like that other bridge that's already in there? That one lasted 20 years.
Yeah, so the goal of having a boardwalk instead of individual bridges is that it allows it to fill up in one location, and then it'll move to a new location and start filling up. So when we were looking at that elevation difference, we saw in some locations there was erosion, in some locations there was deposition. And when there's individual channels with individual bridges over them, when that fills up, then the stream moves onto the trail, and that's an issue. With the boardwalk over the full length, when that happens, and it will happen, it doesn't impact the trail access at all.
I know down in the Squally Delta, they've got the boardwalks down there too, so I'm sure you've been able to see that and see how that. The downstream area, is there anything that's going to affect that? I mean, right now it's kind of channelized, but 1,900 feet, that's a lot of area to be able to move around. And do we have any concerns about downstream, how this will affect them?
We didn't look a lot about the downstream impacts, but I don't believe that it would cause any, because the stream is already moving and is already changing its flow path frequently. Installing the boardwalk just creates better access along that, and the stream would continue to pretty much do what it's doing. So the current situation would likely remain.
And the other thing, the materials and so forth, we in government have a tendency to build projects and not money for maintenance. I'm just curious on maintenance and so forth. Did your team look at that at all and how that would take place and so forth?
Yeah, so we looked at maintenance and we talked with our liaisons at Skagit County. And so the project lifespan we expect to be about 30 years. And we looked at, in the maintenance, we looked at like trees falling on it, so potential occasional rebuilds of small sections. And we looked at the brushing that might be required to keep vegetation back. And we worked with our liaisons at Parks and Recreation to come up with maintenance numbers there.
Yeah, once again, I'm really impressed with your presentation. I really appreciate what you all have done. I know I couldn't have done that coming out of my senior year in college, so you guys did a great job.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Sure.
As we're talking, so sometimes, I get these vocabulary words and I want to string them together in a sentence and see if this is true or not. Does the 1,900 feet span the channel migration zone of Wiseman Creek?
Yes.
Oh, it does. And I didn't know if channel migration zone was actually a term when you're already in an alluvial fan. Yeah, Allison's shaking her head.
Isn't the zone, it goes until the next elevation?
Well, I
So
just
basically
wondering
it's the whole whole
Right,
valley.
it's the whole fan. The intent is to.
Well,
have
that's
the
going
boardwalk
north-south
span the
versus
whole-
east-west.
The whole fan. I mean, whether you call it a channel migration zone or a whole fan, it's.
Well, I
kind of the
just
same.
know in some of our planning documents, CMZ accommodation is a required thing, but I always
Sure.
think about that as the Skagit River.
Sure, and the river, of course,
Valley's
has a
headway.
channel migration zone because it's not a fan.
Yeah.
Whereas this part of Wiseman Creek is definitely an
into the alluvial fan.
So that's more the term I think that's used for talking about this particular kind of
Yeah.
geology, the geographic zone there.
So you'll spend the rest of your engineering and project career trying to explain this to people who have to make a decision about whether we're going to build stuff. So thank you for your patience and indulgence. But
Any questions?
Fine, great, thank you.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure, I'll just hop up and say a couple things.
Allison, did you tell all the students that this is recorded and they can play it back to
Well,
their professors?
I was just going to mention that, but I was going to mention it for a different reason. But yes, this is all being recorded, obviously, the on air. And I was going to say that I'm excited about that because I've had a couple of neighbors inquire just before this project was getting going about Wiseman Creek and what was going to happen and how can we, see improvements. And I'm so excited to be able to share this presentation with those people who have inquired about, hey, here's some potential solution that has been discussed and proposed, and now we'll see what people think and what the county thinks and start to pursue some grant funding sources. And having a 10% partial design, having some analysis that these students have done is fantastic to move forward with those kinds of proposals. And this is a really complex area, and most of the projects we work on are complex these days, involving multiple facets. It's not just about fish, it's about people, it's about whether it's business, recreation, homeowners, flooding, all those things. And this is one of those projects that's the nexus of all of those things. And so really nice to have students work on a real world problem solving exercise. And I hope that we can work on more in the future like that. I thought that one of the other the environment we all work in now really helps facilitate this working in Skagit County, and with businesses, and governments outside of the Seattle area, because we were able to have those weekly Zoom meetings and participate all together. And I thought that one of the other great parts about the program was every so often they all took turns being the project manager, being in charge of the project. So it wasn't like they each took a role and that was it for the 9 months. They each got a chance to have the leadership role in the program as well. So that was a really nice attribute, I thought, was they all got to experience not just one role but multiple roles in the process. So thank you very much. And like I said, I get inquiries about this area, and I'm excited to share this presentation with people. So
it's really exciting.
Yeah. And yes, describing alluvial fans and all those things are really challenging, but a boardwalk is, I think, a fantastic solution. But to have gone through the analysis to get there, to allow the channel to actually migrate, to move from this channel, fill in that one, scour a new channel, go down that one, and allow that to happen over time, which when we channelize it into just one bridge location or several bridge locations, it's much harder we all know it's hard to contain water. So,
well, and we're all more successful when there's multiple use of any project. So it makes I've had the trail walkers in here complaining that they, can't get through there. And I actually hadn't even thought about the horsemen coming through, but and now that with and with the bikes and electric bikes on the anyway, it satisfies so many needs. So
it's a well-used, well-loved trail, so we want people to be able to use it year-round.
Yeah.
Because it's a lowland trail that they can.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So again, thank you. I have a little, something for each of you, but
okay.
Any other questions from me?
Were there any surprises that was brought up? I mean, you've lived here for quite a while and you've seen all this going on, so.
I know at first that some of the, just doing a site visit and having Joseph bring up some of the maintenance requirements and making sure that, those were either A, addressed, or B, investigated for what kind of maintenance, do we really need to be capable, and what types of machinery needs to be able to be brought in to do that maintenance. And, so those are the kinds of things that are outside where my head's at. So it was great to have that level of input involved because it's recreational use, so we need to accommodate all those kinds of needs. So, yeah.
Good.
I'd say that was my surprise.
Any other questions?
So have you all graduated, or you're getting ready to go through ceremonies? On the 12th of June? Okay. Yeah, I went to a fellow Jesuit institution across the state over there in Spokane. Wrote checks for a lot of years as all my children graduated from there, celebrated when they were all done, but they always graduated on Mother's Day. So that's why I ask. Yeah. But, well, thank you. Thank you for fitting an in-person visit into your last few days, really, probably of workload, so.
They have another presentation on Friday, right? The project presentations for the whole university.
Our Projects Day event will take place on Friday, June 2nd. We'll have roughly 600 people visit in person, 600 people attend online, and we'll be giving 47 presentations across all of the disciplines that day. That happens from 12 to 4:15, and then we have a big reception, and it's a celebration of all the work that these students have done over the last 9 months. So it's a day that I personally look forward to every single year.
Yeah.
It's nice that we have Macklin. He doesn't need a microphone. He's got that. And I think Commissioner Browning, you are joining me on Friday, so we'll get to see those. It'll be interesting because some of these groups work with very large organizations, Microsoft and whoever else. So maybe, I don't know how long of a schedule we have. You guys are presenting at 12:45, so we're certainly going to be there, and we'll get an opportunity to see some of those other presentations. I think we're lucky to have commissioners that are very engaged with students and want to see the success of youth in this county. So I think it's exciting for them to see what you guys are all doing, and maybe even get a chance for Peter and I, or Commissioner Browning and I, to see some of these other exciting projects as well.
So Brian, will you ensure that the link to this presentation, when it's ready, gets sent out to, at least to Macklin, and he can distribute to the team?
It's surprising, Macklin, how many people say, I saw that on Channel 21, and it's like, what are you doing watching this?
Well, there was a PT office that would run it while they were like doing their knee extension things, and then they would watch, and they're like, I saw you on. I'm like, oh my gosh. No offense, Brian, but yeah, couldn't you be watching something else?
Isn't there a Mariners game on or something? Anyway.
Oh yeah, anyway, okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else? I really appreciate, like I said before, Mac, and it'd be interesting to hear all those 50 different projects, what type of things, and let the kids graduate from high school understand these type of programs are out there. I think we really need to have students do something they really want to do and enjoy it, and have a little understanding before they get 4 years into it that that's something they want to do or a career they want to go into. So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Well, and Joseph, I want to thank you too. It's really great that you definitely span the age gap between this bench and the students. I won't comment on Director Adams.
I turned 60 on the day they're graduating, so that speaks to something. They won't be able to get to my birthday party. That's the one thing I'm a little upset about.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have 600. If you're there, they'll have 600 people there sing you happy birthday. Okay.
Okay, anything else? So once again, thank you very much for the presentation. Great job. So with that, we adjourn. Thank you.